As soon as he's ready, we'll get started.
Yeah, fire away, guys.
Coach, you get Tyree Jackson back hopefully this time around, and you're starting to get a little something out of Miles James too. Are the numbers starting to work in your favor a bit?
Well, hopefully, Pig was able to practice yesterday, so I think that'll help, with perimeter depth. I think that does help. I mean, it helps in practice, and that'll hopefully get us better, prepared. And Miles gave us some good minutes against Tulsa, I thought, and hopefully he'll continue to do that.
Obviously, if you just look at the rankings with Houston and everything, I mean, is this the toughest matchup of the season so far for y'all, just on paper? And what are those challenges like?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I mean, I think when you look at their defensive numbers are terrific. They're shooting the ball well in conference play, especially from the three, and their rebounding numbers have been consistent. I mean, they're 4 in the net. When you look at their Ken Palm offensive and defensive efficiency ratings are very, 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 very low in a good way. And they're balanced. I mean, they've got a bunch of different guys. They've had guys pop, Kid Chaney pops up the other day and drops 10 points in the first half against SMU and hadn't played a lot of minutes. And I just think they're very well balanced, and they can hit you a bunch of different ways.
Joe, how do you prepare for, sorry, Bill, how do you prepare for a rebounding team like this? I mean, they get 40% of their misses. I think they're 4th or 5th in the nation. I was looking yesterday. Does it have to be a team effort rebounding on Wednesday?
It's got to be a team effort. It's also got to be a lot of, what they do a really good job of, is also back tipping the ball. They run in there, and I think one thing is they're not afraid to foul, which is good news. And they run in there and they tip it, and then they run down it. So it's going to be a lot of loose balls also. They're counted as rebounds, but a lot of them are really loose balls, and they do a great job of pursuing the ball, whether it's on the backboard. Gorham's 3rd in the country in rebounding, or if it's Giroux from the point guard spot, he's a very good rebounder and just 6'5" and very athletic. So they pursue it, they pursue it, they pursue it.
Coach, you're in a kind of a catch-22 situation with Jaden Gardner. You have to have him to score, and when he does score a lot, typically you guys win games, but then he's scoring over 40% of your buckets. How important is it for other people to step up on a regular basis?
Well, I think we need to get some offensive continuity. I mean, JJ had been off to a good start, and then he was shut down for a little bit. I think he's trying to get his legs back under him. Tristan, we're trying to ease him back. You look at Tristan's number from last year to this year's number. He's averaging almost 8 less points a game in conference play, and he was out for 16 days, and then we had him back for a day or two. So conditioning, I think, is going to be a big factor. And then after we had him back for a day or two, he was shut down for 5 days. And I think he needs to get some continuity. I think we need to get some continuity offensively. I thought we flowed a little bit better against Tulsa, but that's because we played a couple games now, and I do think other people do need to step up. I think Tremont has. He's been another weapon. Hopefully we can get JJ's legs back under him. Hopefully we can get Tristan going, and hopefully some of these guys can continue to improve.
With a game like this, does it kind of highlight how weird and unique this season is? I mean, years past, number 5 team will be coming in here, and y'all will be playing up to the crowd, and stadium would be kind of packed, that type of thing. And obviously it won't be that way tomorrow. Is that just kind of hit on how tough it is maybe to not pull an upset when the fans are behind you, that type of thing?
I think one thing we're seeing is how big a advantage home court advantage is, or home field advantage is. Now you look at the balance and the parity throughout college basketball, and some teams that very rarely lose at home are, pedestrian for their usual standards. And I think the one thing about it is we've been playing long enough that this year that we're used to the environment, and I think we're sort of settling into it. It's not going to change, so let's not worry about it. Let's worry about what we can control, and at least we get an opportunity to play. So let's keep our mouths shut and play.
Joe, when you were off for a couple of weeks, you expressed concern about coming back and playing a lot of games when your team had been not practicing, not conditioning. How do you feel about the general energy level going into the game tomorrow night?
Good. I mean, I think this is going to be a work in progress. I mean, I do talk, it's made you rethink, like we've all had to, and adjust, because you're there's a fine line between getting your team prepared to play and conditioning, and also over conditioning, getting guys hurt. I mean, we talk about it right now in practice. You know, you go through a stretch where you have 9 or 10 guys, and then maybe one day you have 13, the next day you have 9. So how do you adjust? And then these other guys, you know, when they start getting in good shape, it seems like then maybe we've had a pause, which isn't their fault. So you shut down for 5 days, and then as you reacclimate, you're not really doing any, contact. These guys right now are used to getting hit every day, and now when you don't get hit for a few days or running into each other, and you worry about those type of injuries, and because they're not used to it. So just trying to have a fine line between conditioning and also preparing them for the physicality of a game.
Joe,
Coach, you admit,
go ahead, Billy.
so we seem to talk over each other. Sorry, Patrick. Coach, you had talked about continuity, obviously, with players, but there's that continuity with coaches too, and having missed that time being out. Did you sense, it seemed like I sensed that the players just played a little different without their leader and their man on the floor, which is you. Did you kind of sense that too?
I think that when we've got I think most of us probably as people are a little bit of creatures of habit. And when you go out there and, it feels a little bit different, it might be a little bit different when a guy's out for a day or two with the sprained ankle, you don't miss him. But when, I missed the first 8 practices after Christmas. And then in a weird deal, I hadn't been in person in front of our team until last Friday since January 13th. So that's different for the kids, and they're looking and they're trying now, you can Zoom, which is good, but when you step out of bounds or when you make a boneheaded play and I'm watching on Zoom, like the voice isn't as the same off of Zoom as it is when you're yelling, "Hey, what are you doing?" when you're standing at a half court. Or I think the things about being able to walk over and pat a guy on the back or ask them how they're doing in person is entirely different. You can text, you can Zoom, but I think it was different for those guys, and they're looking for direction, and the assistants have to get direction, but they're also looking, hey, where's, and as a head coach, you feel guilty. I know I didn't do anything wrong, but you feel like, hey, I should be there leading these guys, and you're sitting at home and there's not much you can do. So it's a disappointing or a bad feeling as a coach not being able to help your guys also.
Joe, you've talked a little bit about, execution throughout the season, bad possessions, bad shots being almost as bad as a turnover. The last couple of games, it's been execution down the stretch. What are some things, that you all as a staff can do to maybe improve that? What are you, I guess, encouraging the players or wanting the players to do a little differently? Because they've had opportunities the last 2 games in final possessions.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, and you'll continue to work on offensive execution and time score situation, opportunities. We do work on that. We will continue to work on it. Part of it's learning how to win. I mean, I said this to our guys yesterday. I said, guys, we're still trying to figure ourselves out. We've played 13 games and it's February. You usually play 13 games in the out of conference schedule. So figuring your team out, and then we've had some guys in and out. He's in today, he's out. So just from a continuity standpoint of trying to get, what are you going to run? We went to, into the Memphis game where we're taking guys and you're saying, hey, what 4 plays can we run with those guys because they haven't played this position before? So that changes a little bit about what you're trying to do. Now, at the end of the game, you got to get the ball in the best player's hands. Now, sometimes the other team takes the ball out of your best player's hands. So you have to have a plan where another guy's able to step up, make a play, or put people in position to make plays for one another.
Joe, what do you feel like are going to be the things that will put you in the best position to kind of be in a position to strike?
I think the big thing tomorrow is obviously going to be not turning the ball over and rebounding the ball. Those sound very simple, but those are really, because if you don't turn it over, it eliminates some of the transition. And we're going to have to guard the 3-point line, because what happens is with Sasser and Grimes and those guys shooting a lot of threes, it also leads to a lot of long rebounds, which means there's once the ball is shot, that's where the possession begins.
Joe, Tristan, I know he had the timeout, but he's kind of struggled. It seems been a little inconsistent all year. Anything you've been able to put your finger on with that, aside from, just missing that amount of time that he missed earlier?
Well, he's been out. He's had a little knee soreness. I think that, we've talked about, playing he and Trey a little bit more, playing those two guys together, but maybe playing him on the ball a little bit more. And I do think that, when he came back, he was out for 16 days, came back, and his knee started bothering him. So he shut down a little bit more. And then we paused for a little bit. And I mean, so that's, you start looking at 20 something days. I mean, we did the math on Tyree. Tyree was in contact tracing twice. That was 14 days times 2 is 28 days. And then 15 days here with, being out. So you think about that during the season, guys. I mean, that's a lot of days to be quarantined. And I'm not the smartest guy, but something tells me my offensive rhythm or my game wouldn't be in sync, when you've been in the cooler that long.
Joe, it seems like Houston is the dominant team in the league this year, more so than I recall, one program being in that position in the American in recent years anyway. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their net, when you look at the rest of the team's net in the league, there's no doubt. I mean, I think the thing that they've done is they haven't just won; they've won dominatingly. I mean, they've dominated every game, from start to finish, almost averaging, outscoring their opponents almost 11.5 points a game in the first half alone. I think that's the thing that they've done is they're relentless. Like I said, they can score a bunch of different ways, but I've not seen a team dominate our league. I mean, I've only been in the league 3 years, but this has been a thorough domination so far. I mean, Tulsa nicked them up a little bit that one game, but most of these other games have been pretty lopsided.
Coach,
Coach, what do you want tempo tonight or tomorrow night in terms of matching up with Houston?
Well, I think the tempo is going to be determined by, if we can get some stops and rebound the ball. You still have to be opportunistic offensively, because if you stand and try to grind it out every possession, they're terrific defensively. Now, defensively, they are pretty deliberate. Offensively, they are pretty deliberate. They run their stuff. They're opportunistic. Obviously, they'll push it in transition off of turnovers and rebounds, but they are a multiple ball screen. Their bigs do a good job of slipping ball screens, and they do run a good pace offensively. So we just got to be ready to defend long possessions.
Coach, I know one team dominating a league typically isn't very good, but if you look at Houston with the name, with their history, and I think this is the highest they've been ranked since the Phi Slamma Jamma days, that's got to be good for the conference. It's got to be good for everybody in recruiting in that aspect to have kind of that national power and a lot of spotlight on them, even though, they are doing what they're doing in conference.
Yeah, I think that it is good for the league, but I think the rest of us need to step up. We need to get to where we're having, 5 teams in the NCAA tournament, and a team or 2 in the NIT. I think that's where you really can make a big jump as a league. I mean, I think I think my first year we were the 5th or 6th ranked league in the country, and ahead of the Pac-12 and one other league. And I think we need to get a little bit more balance. I think the teams that have been at the back end like us need to continue to get better. I do think that we need to get it where, there's some multiple team, where there's 4 or 5 teams competing for NCAA bids. That's Houston's dominance is good, but the rest of us need to put ourselves in position where we can get to the NCAA tournament.
Anything else for Coach, guys?
I've got a question, Jody.
Sure.
The rescheduling, and I may have missed something. If so, I apologize, but has there been any more developments in terms of rescheduling games that were missed?
We obviously we rescheduled the Temple game. The Temple game, we're going to play that Thursday. Excuse me, that Thursday, Saturday. We're still talking. I mean, there's so many scenarios. I mean, one side of me says, how many was you going to reschedule? And in the back of your mind, you're also saying, what are we rescheduling for? We're going to have to reschedule the rescheduled games. I mean, you look around. I mean, there's a number of teams in our league that haven't shut down yet. I mean, and hopefully they don't. But my point is, as you look around, more and more teams are pausing again, and there's a number of teams. Cincinnati still hasn't played. Since they shut down before us. USF, shut down. Same time as us, and they still haven't played. And I don't know how they're. We've played 3 games. I don't know how they're going to make up those additional games. And also with the safety and well-being of the players from a playing standpoint, not just a COVID standpoint, but You know, if you're going to jam 8 games into 12 or 30, 14 days, that's not fair to the kids, in my opinion.
Thanks, Coach.
Good, guys?
Well said, guys. Have a good day.